เอาละค่ะเราจะเข้าสู่ช่วงของ panel discussion กันนะคะวันนี้เราจะมี3 วง 3 เวทีด้วยกันนะคะฟังไปก็ค่อยๆเก็บความรู้ประสบการณ์จากทุกท่านนะคะที่วันนี้ให้เกียรติมาร่วมงานค่ะในลำดับต่อไปนะคะเราจะเข้าสู่การเสวนาในหัวข้อ Finding Growth Opportunities in an Increasingly Divisive World ก็จะมีการแลกเปลี่ยนนะคะกับผู้เชี่ยวชาญ5 บริษัทด้วยกันนะคะจาก Pictet, Lazard, Kotak International, China MC และ Fidelity International ค่ะอย่างที่ชื่อของหัวข้อบอกเลยนะคะว่าทุกวันนี้โลกของเราเนี่ยอยู่ท่ามกลางความแตกแยกแล้วก็การแข่งขันด้านภูมิรัฐศาสตร์นะคะเราจะหาโอกาสในการลงทุนได้อย่างไรเดี๋ยวเรามาหาคำตอบกันนะคะสำหรับในเซสชันนี้ค่ะ So for this session, finding growth opportunities in an increasingly divisive world, I'd like to invite our distinguished speakers on stage one by one. May I first of all invite Mr. Freeman Jun, Head of Intermediaries, Asia ex-Japan, Pictet Asset Management on stage. Please give Mr. Freeman a very warm welcome.And next, may invite the Head of Distribution Asia Lazard Asset Management on stage, Mr. Shen Tan. Next, may invite Investment Manager of Kotak International, Mr. Ankit Sanchetti.Next, I would like to invite Chief Investment Strategist from China AMC, Dr. Ting Wenjia. Last but not least, may I invite on stage Portfolio Manager of Fidelity International, Mr. Hiten Sawani.Good morning to the five of you ดิฉันขออนุญาตทำหน้าที่ดำเนินรายการนะคะสำหรับเซสชันนี้นะคะก็เดี๋ยวหลักๆเลยเนี่ยก็จะถามนะคะทั้ง5ท่านแหละค่ะว่าท่ามกลางความผันผวนของโลกนะคะแล้วก็อย่างวิกฤตน้ำมันที่เราเห็นอยู่นะคะในเมืองไทยแล้วก็หลายๆประเทศทั่วโลกเนี่ยอะไรคือในแง่เหตุการณ์เราทราบกันหมดแต่ว่าอะไรคือความเสี่ยงใหญ่นะคะที่ทั้ง5ท่านบนเวทีนี้ได้มองเห็นนะคะว่าจะเกิดขึ้นต่อจากนี้รวมถึงโอกาสที่ยังมีอยู่โอกาสอยู่ตรงไหนอยู่มุมไหนของโลกหรือว่าอยู่ในเซกเตอร์ไหนอยู่ในอุตสาหกรรมไหนเดี๋ยวจะถามนะคะรวมถึงคำแนะนำในการลงทุนด้วยค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นเดี๋ยวเรามาเริ่มกันเลย Okay, let us start with the big picture here about the global risk, the regional risk that all of you might have in mind to share with us here today. Let's start with Mr. Freeman from Pictet.
Sure, thank you. On behalf of Pictet, I think in a now today changing world, in your mind, 4 risks has already been happened. One is about the geopolitical tension in the Middle East, which trigger the oil price and inflation, affecting the Thai residency on your energy, the gasoline, and also the upcoming electricity bill. That will also impacting your investment. And the third one is about the AI, because over the last 3 months, a lot of people has been investing into AI, but the software company has dropped a lot because the automation starting to AI agentic is starting to impact. If it is the future, should I just invest into the software? Will there be any other opportunity? Last but not least on the 4 risks is about the rate. With the current inflation environment, the inflation may stay higher for longer. If that is the case, will that be impacting the growth company within the investment world that triggers some of the risks of the debt? So those 4 risks that are linked together. But I always ask the investor one thing. That is our investment manager from Pictet always asks us. If you're facing in this risk, you as an investor has to ask yourself a few questions. First, for the current situation in Middle East, which are the region impact the most? You have to identify the risk first. So I'll give you 3 choices. Is that North America, Europe, or Asia? Then our manager come to us that Asia will be impacting the most because we are the net importer, the oil from Middle East. If Asia is the risk, then next question is which sector will be impacted negatively if the oil price sustain on a high level? Most of the investors will say, oh, consumer. But for our investment managers saying that the high growth energy consumed most company like AI may be impacting in the future. Then the third question, if the rate is going to stay high, the risk of the pirate credit and also some of the company that do a lot of loans, will that be impacted in the coming future? That is a certainty that the volatility will sustain, the third risk. The fourth one is mainly about the US dollar. If that is going to stay higher, will that be impacting on the currency level? So all these questions, if you want to get out from this conference for Pictet, we want you to get out from that is understand the risk. Ask yourself a question on those four, then you will know which country, which sector to avoid. Then we'll come to the next question, where are the opportunity ahead? So hopefully that will give you some clear picture to identify the coming future risks.
Thank you very much Mr. Freeman ภาพนะคะภาพรวมเลยเนี่ยก็คือมีความเสี่ยงหลายอย่างด้วยกันนะคะอย่างที่เราเห็นนะคะสงครามเนี่ยก็ทำให้ราคาน้ำมันพุ่งสูงนะคะทีนี้หลักการที่คุณฟรีแมนเขาให้เราทุกคนได้คิดเนี่ยก็คือว่าก็ต้องดูว่าแล้วความเสี่ยงนั้นเนี่ยคือกระทบเราตรงไหนนะคะเซกเตอร์ไหนเป็นพิเศษนะคะเดี๋ยวเราจะค่อยๆแกะจากตรงนั้นไปแต่ว่าภาพรวมเนี่ยก็คือว่าเอเชียได้รับผลกระทบเยอะนะคะเรื่องของน้ำมันและท่านอาจจะบอกว่าภาคอุปโภคบริโภคเนี่ย consumer goods เนี่ยอาจจะได้รับผลกระทบเยอะแต่เขาบอกว่า AI เองก็อาจจะได้รับผลกระทบเหมือนกันนะคะเรื่องของ interest rate ถ้าเกิดว่าสูงต่อไปเรื่อยๆอันนี้ก็อาจจะส่งผลกระทบนะคะต่อบริษัทที่จะต้องเกี่ยวข้องนะคะกับเรื่องของดอกเบี้ยหรือว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของ currency เองถ้าเกิดว่าดอลลาร์ยังสูงแบบนี้ก็จะสร้างผลกระทบเหมือนกันก็ต้องรู้ว่าเรายืนอยู่จุดไหนนะคะท่ามกลางปัจจัยต่างๆเหล่านี้นะคะเอาละค่ะเดี๋ยวเราลองถามท่านต่อไปนะคะว่าจะมีมุมมองเหมือนกันหรือเปล่านะคะ Okay next to Lazard then maybe you can share what is your perspective do you agree with Mr. Freeman or you have something different here
Thank you very much you know, the risks in this world, they're very, very well documented already, right? I mean, from my perspective, when I look at it, whether it's a risk, whether it's an opportunity, I think there are a few things that are happening that we need to be a bit more aware of. One is obviously the next 3 to 6 months, who's going to be the next US Fed governor is very important from my perspective, because interest rates in the US decides on a lot of the prices or value of any asset. The second thing that everyone's been talking about for quite a while, but it will continue to be an issue, would be the US tariffs. I think US tariffs is very, very important because it really, reset or reroute all the trading routes around the world. We need to understand that a bit better. And thirdly, of course, is the recent times is the US-Israel versus Iran war. I mean, it affects your energy prices, obviously. But I'll talk about some of the investment opportunities when at a later stage. But from a Lazard's perspective, when we think about all these things, we think geopolitical views or geopolitical advice is very, very important. The way we tackle this kind of issues is by creating what we call the Lazard Geopolitical Advisory Group. So we've got people such as the ex-deputy director of the CIA. We've got the ex-former head of the U.S. Central Command General, and we've got the ex-U.S. Admiral that was responsible for the special ops in operations in the U.S. Army. And these people give a very, very good perspective of what's happening in the world. And it also helps us to navigate across all these very, very challenging times. But I'm a simple man. When I think about all these things, sometimes all these things will be clouded and we get shrouded by all this very technical talks about, risk and investment. Give you an example, like now with the Iran war, the risk is energy prices. How does a simple man think? Very easy. If my business is affected by the energy prices, well, instead of being very scared and can't do anything, why don't I just buy listed companies that are in the energy sector? That's a natural hedge to your business. Because if your prices of energy affect your business, the cost of capital increases. You invest in the companies that are selling energy to you. Simple solution. Because where I come from in Hong Kong, it's like everyone knows Hong Kong. Houses are very expensive. Apartments are very expensive. I can't afford a house. I can't afford an apartment. So what do? I buy Hong Kong property developers. If I can't buy the house, I might as well buy the companies that invest or create all those houses. That gives me an opportunity, right? I think at the end of the day, investing is all about avoiding bad risk and investing in good risk. In our world, in finance, in investments, the way I put it is there are themes that are for short-term trading. It's like that's why ETFs exist these days, because when you have an idea, you invest instantaneously, immediately. But then there's also investment, longer-term investments. So you got to break it down. There's the short-term, tactical, immediate action type investment, which I call trading ideas. And then you've got investment ideas that are longer term. We specialize in longer term investment ideas. And later I'm going to talk about a couple opportunities where trading ideas has turned into investment ideas for longer term. So thank you.
Thank you. By the way, did your group of experts tell you when the war is going to end?
I don't think anyone knows when the war is going to end, to be honest. Maybe except President Trump. If he decides to say, hey, I'm going to stop this war, it will all
Are you
end.
sure he even knows himself?
Well, he has the ability to make that decision, right? Whether he wakes up tomorrow and decides, we don't know. Even he doesn't know. So if anyone, you ask a very interesting question, because when someone can give you very precise answers, I tend to worry. Why? You can be precisely wrong as opposed to getting it kind of right. I've worked with some of the smartest investors in my life. One of the biggest worry I have is when a investment professional tells you that interest rate is going to go to 3.62256% in 3 months. I get very worried. Because if you can predict that well, you wouldn't be sitting where he is or she is. So when people give you very precise answers, I get very, very worried. It's always better to be kind of right on the right direction as opposed to precisely wrong.
All right, thank you, Mr. Shen. So we will be kind of right, okay, on this stage here. สำหรับคุณเฉินนะคะก็บอกว่า 3-6 เดือนข้างหน้านะคะนอกเหนือจากปัจจัยเรื่องของสงครามน้ำมันต่างๆแล้วนะคะก็เรื่องของการได้ผู้ว่าการธนาคารกลางของสหรัฐคนใหม่อันนี้ก็สำคัญนะคะว่าเขาจะเป็นใครกันแน่นะคะถึงแม้ว่าเทรนด์จะเป็นแบบนั้นก็ตามแล้วก็เรื่องของ tariff war ก็ยังอยู่เช่นเดียวกันนะคะเรื่องของสงครามเนี่ยก็มีเรื่องของราคาพลังงานที่ได้รับผลกระทบนะเขาบอกว่าถ้าเป็นเขาคิดแบบง่ายๆก็คือก็ถ้าอย่างนั้นก็ไปซื้อหุ้นบริษัทพลังงานก็แล้วกันก็จะได้มา hedge นะคะกับความเสี่ยงของตัวเองแต่เดี๋ยวในเรื่องของโอกาสการลงทุนเนี่ยเดี๋ยวจะพูดกันต่อไปนะคะไปดูมุมมองของ Fidelity International กันบ้างนะคะ Mr. Hiten please give us your perspective on the risks the biggest ones that you see today
Thank you What my colleague here just said to me really said out loud was really resonated in terms of being precisely wrong. I think there's a real danger that people are constantly looking for a level of confidence that is just unattainable when it comes to investment. And we see this again and again. And I've been fortunate enough to be in investments for 24 odd years. I've been managing portfolios for over 13 of those. And oftentimes when we speak to our clients, even the largest, most sophisticated clients that are managing institutional money for a very long horizon, there is a desire for a high degree of confidence. And reality is that's extremely difficult to give with reassurance. One of the things that I feel is quite different about the world today is that the level of diversification that you can gather from investing in the traditional assets you would is a challenge. And what does that mean? For example, if you have some of your money invested in gold and some of it invested in bonds, some of it invested in equities, all of those things have gone down together since the beginning of the year. So we're seeing correlations between traditional asset classes really fall apart. The diversification, the long-run diversification benefit of equities and bonds, so traditional pension fund allocations to the equity market and the bond market, those relationships are being challenged in different market environments. And in the very near term, even year to date, we've had a complete kind of dislocation there. So one of the key challenges, and of course we've covered a lot about geopolitics and energy crisis, for me, this is all tied up in investment horizon. We don't know, exactly as we were just talking about, we don't know how long this turbulent period is going to last. We don't know how long energy disruptions are going to last. So what you need to think about is how can you invest in a way that will protect you from large geopolitical moves, from large moves in energy prices, from large moves in any particular sector or country. It is very, very hard to forecast the duration of these disruptions, and the level of uncertainty is being elevated is the only thing that will remain certain. I'll come on to explain how we think about this and how we've built a solution that tries to immunize, tries to protect by being long and short all these kinds of risks, and to try and provide a resilient and stable growth. So it's quite a challenging thing, but investment horizon is at the very heart of it.
Thank you very much Mr. Hudson หลักๆเลยก็คือว่ามันไม่ง่ายนะคะเพราะว่าความไม่แน่นอนเนี่ยคือสูงมากไม่มีใครบอกได้ว่าจะเกิดอะไรขึ้นนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นวิธีที่ดีที่สุดก็คือว่าจะต้องลงทุนเพื่อที่จะป้องกันความเสี่ยงเหล่านี้ให้ได้ดีที่สุดเท่าที่จะทำได้นะคะเดี๋ยวเราไปฟังผู้เชี่ยวชาญท่านต่อไปนะคะจาก China AMC กันบ้างนะคะดร.จิงนะคะเดี๋ยวจะเน้นเรื่องของตลาดจีนเยอะหน่อยนะคะ Dr. Jing, please tell us about your perspective, especially on the impact on China.
Yes, thank you. So I think regarding China, we have both global risks and also domestic specific risks. We have been talking a lot about global risks from the war and the resulting energy crisis, and also AI have such disrupting impact on our lives and even on our jobs. And for China specifically, a lot of people are still worried about the property market weakness over the long run, and also consumer sentiment is not still exciting yet. And so I think all of these are risks, and it's important to bear in mind. But I think it's more relevant and more important to look at how China and Chinese government have been setting out to address those challenges. For example, regarding energy. China has actually been pursuing this energy security for quite a long time, and in almost every 5-year plan, energy safety and security is always our mandatory goal. So a lot of people always talk about GDP target, whether it was 7% 5 years ago or 5% 5 years ago, or now we have lowered to a range. But you know what? GDP target is kind of never mandatory. It's always anticipatory. But energy security is, and so is carbon emission goals. So those are the goals that are mandatory for China. So what we have been doing over the past few years is that we diversifying our imports of energies. We diversify our primary energy sources, and more of them are from non-fossil fuel. And also in terms of consumer and in terms of property market, we also have domestic demand boost, supply side boost, and for the property market, we have city level specific policies instead of a national level announcement to address city specific questions and issues. So regarding consumers, we have government led subsidies, and we also this year we have introduced new tools which is kind of fiscal monetary coordination tools in order to expand the opportunity set for consumers. Because from Econ lesson 101, we know that consumers their utility levels is depend not just on the amount that they consumed, but also on the broad utility they get. So the Chinese government is really setting off and spend a lot of ambitions on addressing those long-term issues. We have lowered the GDP target this year. but that doesn't mean that we spend much less attention on growth. But it's an indication that we are really setting up our mind to address those long-term risks and challenges going forward. So just to quick wrap up my thoughts. I think risks are definitely important, but it's more important to look at how people are addressing those risks. And eventually, I think those risks, if being properly dealt with, will turn into investment opportunities going forward.
Thank you Dr. Ting สั้นๆเลยนะคะก็คือว่าสำหรับจีนเองก็ได้รับผลกระทบเรื่องของพลังงานอาจจะน้อยกว่าคนอื่นหน่อยนะคะเพราะว่าในแผน5ปีของเขาเนี่ยเขาเน้นเรื่องของความมั่นคงนะคะทางด้านของพลังงานมีการdiversify หรือว่าหาแหล่งพลังงานเนี่ยที่แตกต่างออกไปในช่วงหลายปีที่ผ่านมาแล้วก็อาจจะอย่างที่ทุกหลายท่านรับทราบนะเขาตุนน้ำมันเอาไว้เยอะพอสมควรค่ะเพราะฉะนั้นเขาก็ดูแลเรื่องของความเสี่ยงระยะยาวเหล่านี้นะคะแต่เรื่องของตลาดอสังหาริมทรัพย์ของเขาเองเนี่ยก็อาจจะยังมีปัญหาอยู่ก็มีนโยบายในระดับของเมืองนะคะลงมาพยายามที่จะช่วยแก้ไขค่ะเอาจากจีนนะคะไปดูตลาดอินเดียกันสักนิดหนึ่งเพราะเป็นหนึ่งตลาดที่น่าสนใจนะคะ Mr. Ankit please tell us more about the Indian market
Sure and thanks I will resonate with what my colleagues on the panel had already spoken about. Energy clearly is the top of mind recall for investors when they think about investing in India. And precisely to the point that it's very difficult to pinpoint when this conflict is going to end, the best way where investors can work around is by working on sensitivities and probabilities. We have, from an India perspective, given an understanding that for every $10 increase in oil prices on an annualized basis, the impact on current account deficit for India is roughly 30 basis points. The impact on inflation is around 27 basis points, and impact on fiscal deficit of India is around 15 to 16 basis points. So these are the sensitivities with which one needs to work with depending on the outcome or the duration of the conflict. The second thing which was spoken about was on the tariffs. I would like to point it out here that in the last 2 to 3 odd years, India has signed multiple tariff deals, free trade agreements with starting from Australia to UAE to UK. In the beginning of this calendar year, we had signed the EU FTA deal, and finally we signed the US tariff deal in the early part of Feb 2026. We at Kotak believe that there are always risks on the horizon. Today we are talking about energy risk. Probably a couple of years out, we might be talking about robotics, AI. If we take a step back, in 2022, we were talking about Russia-Ukraine crisis. Go back in 2020, we were talking about COVID as a challenge to humanity itself. But all those risks gave an opportunity for investors to improve their depth of understanding and improve their asset allocation. If I look at from an India perspective, pre-COVID, India was the 6th largest economy. Despite concerns on COVID, despite concerns on Russia, Ukraine, despite concerns which we are going through today, India currently stands at the 4th largest economy. We are expected to grow anywhere between 6.5–7% in real GDP term, 10–11% in nominal GDP terms, and by the end of this decade, India is expected to be the 3rd largest economy. So yes, there are risks, but there are always opportunities, and that's what we need to focus and capitalize on as an investor.
Thank you Mr. Ankit สำหรับอินเดียนะคะสั้นๆเลยก็คือว่าแน่นอนนะคะเรื่องของราคาพลังงานเนี่ยส่งผลกระทบอย่างมากเลยนะคะต่อเศรษฐกิจนะคะส่งผลกระทบต่อดุลบัญชีเดินสะพัดนะคะหรือว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของเงินเฟ้อก็ตามนะคะแต่ว่าเรื่องของ tariff ก็ยังเป็นปัจจัยเสี่ยงแต่ว่าสิ่งที่อินเดียทำก็คือว่าไปจับมือกับประเทศต่างๆนะคะเซ็น FTA กันเพราะฉะนั้นความเสี่ยงเนี่ยมีมาเรื่อยๆนะย้อนกลับไปก็มีเรื่องสงครามรัสเซียยูเครนนะคะมีเรื่องของโควิดนะคะแต่ว่าอินเดียเนี่ยเขาก็เชื่อว่าก็ ก็ยังมีโอกาสนะคะที่น่าสนใจในแง่ของการลงทุนเอาละค่ะทีนี้ฟังมาแล้วนะคะทั้ง5ท่านเลยนะคะเกี่ยวกับความเสี่ยงต่างๆในโลกนะคะแล้วก็สำหรับในระดับของประเทศด้วยสำหรับอินเดียกับจีนทีนี้เราจะมาดูเรื่องของโอกาสในการลงทุนกันบ้างดีกว่านะคะว่าท่ามกลางความเสี่ยงเหล่านี้มีอะไรบ้าง We talk about risk already let's now jump into opportunities this time where are the bright spots which sectors which region of the world let's start with Mr. Freeman
I think now you understand the risk for all of us. The opportunity, everyone in the mind has already come up with two, I would say, solutions. One, AI will be sustained and also live with us for the longer time. Second, the oil price is going to stay as long as possible because of the current situation. If you combine to both, just like this tip of the iceberg, you will find the good opportunity for your portfolio. Because the tip of the iceberg is at the top of the water, you have this AI development, no matter if it's a semiconductor, memory, software. But if you use more of the AI, then trigger the question of the opportunity. Where next of the AI that will help the development further? That's what we call the tip of the iceberg. You should look for the opportunity underneath the water. If the oil price is going to stay as high at 80 or above, and then the AI, you will continue to use that, then this kind of opportunity will help you for the future. Because if you use more AI, the AI company will need more data center. If you have more data center, you have more semiconductor. You need to consume more energy. You need the utility. You need the infrastructure. And also you need the waste management. All this now is becoming the bottleneck of the AI because a lot of people just buy the technology stocks or technology fund. But forget about this kind of development. If you don't have that, you will miss the big piece of the investment opportunity. So for us on the Pictet side, we always look for the future opportunity where your portfolio already has enough technology stocks or technology investment. You should look for the underneath area like the waste management, energy, utility. This is more benefit for complementing of your portfolio. Meaning that if you don't have such sector, you should allocate at least 10 to 20% of that portfolio that will help you to drive the need of the AI development with the high energy price.
โอเค thank you very much สำหรับทางด้านของคุณฟรีแมนจาก Pictet นะคะก็เอาภาพเมื่อสักครู่นี้ให้เห็นนะคะว่าถ้าเกิดว่าเราคิดว่าต่อไปโลกก็ยังจะต้องมีเรื่องของ AI แล้วก็น้ำมันนะคะอาจจะยังสูงอยู่นะคะสมมุติว่า$80นะต่อบาร์เรลเนี่ยแต่ว่าถ้าโลกมุ่งหน้าไปทาง AI เนี่ยก็แปลว่าจะต้องใช้ Data Center มากยิ่งขึ้นนะคะ Semiconductor ก็ต้องเยอะขึ้นก็ต้องใช้พลังงานเยอะขึ้น Infrastructure เยอะขึ้นนะคะแล้วก็เรื่องของwaste นะคะเรื่องของเสียก็เยอะมากยิ่งขึ้นเพราะฉะนั้นในแง่ของการลงทุนเนี่ยเราก็จะมาเจาะดูตรงพวกนี้แหละค่ะของสิ่งที่เชื่อว่าจะเกิดขึ้นในอนาคตนะคะก็น่าจะเป็นโอกาสหรือว่าจุดที่สามารถลงทุนได้ค่ะAll right, let's move on to Mr. Chen, to Lazard. What are the opportunities that you see?
Sure, thank you. If I can figure out the slides, but I can't, but that's okay. Remember when I said think about investment ideas and also trading ideas, where shorter term trading ideas and we are specializing in investment ideas. Well, I think in Lazard we have, I think there are two trading ideas that's now turning into more a investment, longer term investment idea. I think the first one is, let me see, there you go. I put in Japanese companies are leaders in many industries. I think Japan is a fascinating market. It used to be a place where you trade in and trade out, but I think Japan now structurally is now probably a immensely good opportunity for longer term investing. It's fascinating every time when you think about it, anything that is made in Japan. If you had the same TV, whether it's made in Japan or made in Malaysia, same price, you always want to buy the made in Japan version because we know the quality is better or we believe the quality is better, right? And when you think about where do you want to go to your next holiday, I would assume in this room, a large number of you will be thinking about Japan because Japan is such a great place to visit. Great food, great entertainment, hospitality, amazing. Japan is always surprising to me as an Asian. Suddenly it feels like the West has decided made in Japan is good. Like they suddenly realize this. But we in Asia, we've known Japan has always been extremely, extremely high quality, whether it's goods or services. And there's some really amazing companies here. You see Toyota, Sony, 7-Of-I, you all know this, great companies. But even Mitsubishi, Hitachi, they're really playing in the infrastructure behind of, AI. Hitachi is a leading industrial company, and then Mitsubishi, a lot of raw material that they own, the businesses actually fuel a lot of the energy requirements for AI. So I think Japan is a very, very interesting opportunity, and it's worth thinking about. Now, the second one I'm going to quickly talk about, and a lot of people will hopefully find this interesting as well. I think digital assets is something that potentially you might want to think about. I put on this chart where it talks about how the internet grown from 100 million users from 1997 to 1 billion users in 2005. I think cryptocurrency per se, I think in January 2021 there were about 100 million users, and there's a lot of studies that estimate that potentially there'll be 1 billion users or holders of cryptocurrency or digital assets by 2030. Now, there are a lot of skepticism about digital assets. I used to be one of them, but all I'm trying to say is this. When you don't understand something, it doesn't mean it's a bad thing. You got to embrace volatility. You got to embrace things that you might not understand. Because the next generation of investors or asset holders will have digital assets in their pocket, in their phone. The smartphone that you hold, your iPhone, has created this opportunity. There's plenty of opportunities in digital assets. I'm happy to talk about it on 101 later if you want, because I'm very, very passionate about it. And to me, think about it, don't ignore it. People say it's a Ponzi scheme, etc. But do your own research. There are a lot of opportunities in this space. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chen. All right. อันนี้นะคะก็ให้คำแนะนำนะคะสำหรับคุณเฉินทานนะคะว่าหนึ่งก็คือบริษัทต่างๆของญี่ปุ่นค่ะอันนี้ถ้าเกิดว่ามองในแง่ของการลงทุนในระยะยาวนะคะเพราะว่าหลายๆบริษัทที่เมื่อสักครู่ให้เห็นเนี่ยก็คือมีการดำเนินการเกี่ยวกับ AI ไปด้วยนะคะคือเกี่ยวข้องกับอุตสาหกรรม AI แล้วก็อีกอันหนึ่งก็คือพวก Digital Asset ทั้งหลายนะคะพวก Cryptocurrency นะคะซึ่งถ้าเกิดใครไม่เข้าใจหรือว่ามีความรู้ไม่มากพอเนี่ยก็ไม่เป็นไรค่อยๆหาความรู้ได้นะคะแต่ว่ามันไม่เข้าใจไม่ได้หมายความว่ามันเป็นสิ่งที่ไม่ดีนะคะแล้วก็มองว่ามันเป็นอะไรที่เติบโตมากยิ่งขึ้นเรื่อยๆนะคะ Alright, let's move on. Next to Fidelity, Mr. Leighton. What opportunities do you see?
Sure. I think we might have some pictures as well, but if not, it's not a problem. I think we've talked a lot about the uncertainties and the levels of risk and not knowing how long they're going to persist. But one of the things we find when we look across the research that's being done by our internal team of analysts, and we have 130 expert research analysts globally. And what we've got on the chart here is just simply showing how expensive the stock markets have become. So if we look across the world, the orange dot, which you can see is very high on this scale, on this distribution through time, is simply making the point that when we think about how much we're paying per unit of earnings across the different markets globally, we have come to a period where despite the stock market having come down a bit since the beginning of the year, globally it's about 5 or 6% down, because it performed so well up until that point, it is still looking very expensive. And this comes to a second point, which I spoke about earlier, which is investment horizon. How long can these stock markets continue to generate strong performance? It's a very difficult question. Within each stock market, when you look at the sectors from healthcare to technology to utilities to all the different industries, it is a very difficult thing to know with a high degree of confidence how long each sector is going to be a winner. There are definitely trends, and we've spoken about AI We've spoken about some specific areas in healthcare that we know can persist for a very long time. But we think there's a really interesting opportunity within the equity market in the difference of returns across a global spectrum of ideas. So this is to say that stocks have, over the last few years, generally been moving together. And in fact, when you step back and you look at the global stock market, for quite a long period now, a small number of US technology companies have been the largest source of the returns generated. Sometimes you may have heard of the expression, the Magnificent Seven. You'll know those companies very well. They have been the driving force. But what we're starting to see now is actually a broadening out within the equity market, within sectors, and across sectors, so that the returns generated within at a stock level are quite dispersed. So we see a really, really great opportunity here in making and generating performance in a more stable way within each sector, within each region. There will be winners and losers in each industry. And our team of analysts are spending all their time analyzing, doing the sensitivity analysis, looking at the forward forecasts of earnings, their sensitivities to each company that they look at versus energy prices and so on and so forth. Who are the winners and losers going to be? And we can try and take those ideas and not only just invest in a long fashion, but also short ideas that we don't like. And in that way, we can be neutral from country to country, not have any net exposure to any particular country or any particular sector. If you do that, and your winners do better than your losers, you can actually generate very strong and stable returns in a really broad range of market environments. And this is particularly helpful in an environment where the big traditional asset classes are really highly correlated. I mentioned earlier that the gold price, bonds, equities, digital assets, Bitcoin, digital currency, all of these things have moved down together all at once. Energy prices have spiked, but if you think about how you might allocate your own savings to these areas, it's very difficult to know how long something is going to do well for, and then how quickly you need to remove your money and put it into something else. So market timing, country timing, sector timing is challenging. If there is a way of exploiting this dispersion, this widening out in the returns within a sector and within the market, then that's quite an interesting way of doing it. So that's what we've been working on at Fidelity.
Thank you very much Mr. Hitchen สำหรับ Fidelity นะคะคือการที่จะบอกได้นะคะว่า asset ไหนเนี่ยจะโตไปยาวๆจะขึ้นราคาจะดีเนี่ยมันอาจจะเป็นเรื่องที่ยากนะคะเพราะว่ามีความผันผวนแล้วก็มีความเปลี่ยนแปลงสูงนะคะแต่ว่าสำหรับตลาดหุ้นเองเนี่ยในทุกๆอุตสาหกรรมนะคะก็จะมีทั้งผู้ชนะแล้วก็ผู้แพ้นะคะในอุตสาหกรรมนั้นๆนะคะเขาเลยบอกว่าเขามีกลุ่มทีมนักวิจัยนะคะนักรีเสิร์ชเนี่ยที่จะมาดูตรงนี้แหละค่ะเป็นรายตัวเลยนะคะว่าตัวไหนที่น่าจะมีโอกาสที่ดีกว่านะคะในเซกเตอร์นั้นๆในตลาดนั้นๆด้วยนะคะก็คือว่าดูอย่างละเอียดมากยิ่งขึ้นแล้วก็ให้การลงทุนเนี่ยคือกระจายความเสี่ยงออกไปนะคะจะได้ hedge ความเสี่ยงต่างๆที่อาจจะมีจะได้ทำให้อุ่นใจมากยิ่งขึ้นเวลาที่ลงทุนในระยะยาวนะคะเอาละค่ะมาฟังทางด้านของดร.จิงกันบ้างนะคะ Dr. Ding, please tell us about opportunities, especially in the Chinese market.
Yes, I think the biggest opportunities is probably coming from today's changing geopolitical order and world order. I think I certainly want to bring all your attention to China because we have presumed to be quite resilient against all those geopolitical tensions from the trade tensions last year to the Iran conflict this year. And I think inside China, the government policy also have pivoted a lot during the past few years, and basically we are more open towards the world, and we are working with all global partners on common issues like trade tensions, global peace, climate change, energy transition, and certainly the rebuild of the energy infrastructure probably after the war. And I think all of these efforts have been proved also by many of our partners as well. So in terms of China, we are around 20% of the world GDP, probably more in terms of the increments. And we are over 35% of the world AI token usage right now. And we are certainly more, over 50% of the world EV, electric vehicles built, over 60% of the EV battery and solar panels shipped globally. So given those important roles that China have been taking on, we are still 3% of the global equity index. So think about this large gap, and I'm certainly confident that this is going to be narrowed in the years to follow. Yeah, so that I think is the biggest opportunities going forward.
Thank you very much สำหรับจีนนะคะดร.จินก็บอกว่าด้วยความที่จีนเองมีนโยบายที่ยืดหยุ่นนะคะแล้วก็ผ่านมาหลายความท้าทายด้วยกันนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นถ้ามองไปในอนาคตเนี่ยหลายอย่างที่เขาเป็นผู้นำก็น่าจะยังเติบโตไปได้นะคะ AI EV หรือว่าจะเป็นเรื่องของพวกพลังงานสีเขียวนะคะโซลาร์แผงทั้งหลายเนี่ยเขาก็เป็นผู้นำในเรื่องนี้นะคะจากจีนไปต่อกันที่อินเดียกันบ้างนะคะ Alright, let's end with India here. Mr. Ankit, please tell us about the opportunities.
Sure. So from India perspective, we are positive on three key themes, which is an outcome of the monetary policy, it's an outcome of reforms which has been initiated by Indian government, and then there are some structural themes which will continue to remain in play for many years to come. Starting with the financials as one of the bright themes in India, in the last 18 months, the Central Bank of India has cut rates by 125 basis points, and that is leading to higher credit growth from a consumer perspective. And another theme within the financials which has picked up materially in the last 5 to 7 odd years is the financializations of savings and the financial deepening which we are seeing across length and breadth of India, where investment opportunities in capital market linked themes is emerging as a new parameters or opportunity within the financial space. The second opportunity in India is on the consumption side. Again, this has been linked to some kind of stimulus which has been given by the government in the recent past. We have seen $11 to $12 billion of tax break on the income tax side given by the Indian government. 5 months back, Indian government has reduced GST rates on whole host of goods and services. And as we move ahead, there is an 8th pay commission which is expected to be unveiled by the end of this year, and which will lead to another 1 to 1.5% of stimulus in the hands of consumers. So consumption is another theme which continues to remain into play. And the third theme which we are playing in India is in terms of healthcare. Within healthcare, we are positive on hospitals, we are positive on pharmaceutical companies. We believe that it's a predictable earnings growth story, and that story is continue to remain in play for multi-years to come. Thanks.
Thank you. คุณอันคิดนะคะจากอินเดียนะคะจากโคแทคเนี่ยก็บอกว่าสำหรับอินเดียเองนะคะเขาก็มีเรื่องของนโยบายการเงินนะคะแล้วก็การปรับโครงสร้างแล้วก็ reform ด้วยนะคะที่ทำให้อินเดียน่าสนใจมากยิ่งขึ้นสำหรับทุกคนนะคะการลดอัตราดอกเบี้ยก็ทำให้ credit growth เนี่ยเพิ่มมากยิ่งขึ้นนะคะแล้วก็มีการเรื่องของการลดภาษีนะคะก็เป็นการกระตุ้นการบริโภคแล้วก็เน้นเรื่องของภาค healthcare ค่ะเขาเชื่อว่าภาคนี้เป็นภาคที่เขามีความแข็งแกร่งนะคะมากในประเทศอินเดียนะคะเอาละค่ะทีนี้เดี๋ยวจะมาฟังนะคะว่าแต่ละท่านเนี่ยมีคำแนะนำนะคะสำหรับการลงทุนยังไงก็แล้วกันค่ะเพราะว่าเราฟังมาแล้วนะว่าความเสี่ยงคืออะไรโอกาสเนี่ยเพราะอะไรทำไมถึงคิดว่ามีโอกาสทั้งในอินเดียในจีนแล้วก็ในทั่วโลกด้วยนะคะทีนี้คำแนะนำค่ะสำหรับการลงทุนนะคะ finally recommendations from each of you for investors here. How should they allocate their assets? Where should they invest? What should they do with the money?
Sure. I think I'll use the last slide to show you. I think this is quite interesting. If you look for opportunity, use my ABCD theme to find the right solution from BBLAM to fit into your portfolio that will help you navigate the risk while you can capture the opportunity. First one is we do expect the volatility will be sustained. You should not go for high beta instead of looking for alpha. So you can use a hedge fund style to capture the market alpha. Alpha means the outperformance using a low volatility level to capture your opportunity in that market. B stand for broadening AI, meaning that, as I mentioned, the tip of the iceberg, there are a lot more opportunity on the AI. We will be having a session of no power, no AI session to tell you if you have this utility, energy, infrastructure has the opportunity, should you invest in what company? C for cash to work. You should use your regular saving to slowly deploy your cash into the market. As all the speaker here is, risk create opportunity. If you just wait for opportunity, you will miss that. If you use the regular saving, that will help you to contribute to the portfolio return, also to mitigate the risk. Last, I think this is a very important one, diversification, D. You have to diversify not only into the US, not only to the US dollar. Look broadly on a global portfolio from China, India, global. That will help you also to diversify the risk of a single country. Remember one thing, now we are still in two wars, one in East Europe, one in Middle East. Will there be any other part of the world continue to be that? Maybe, but there will be volatility. Use ABCD theme, ask BBLAM to find the right solution for you. That would be the best case of my advice.
Thank you. So basically ask BBLAM. That's the easiest way, right? Okay, so เขาก็ให้คำแนะนำนะคะว่าเป็น ABC อย่างที่เมื่อสักครู่เห็นนะคะก็คือว่าพยายามหาอัลฟานะคะก็คือการเติบโตที่สูงกว่าค่าเฉลี่ยนะคะแล้วก็เรื่องของ AI ก็จะมีโอกาสอีกหลายด้านเลยนะคะเอาเงินออกมาให้เงินทำงานนะคะอย่าให้นั่งเอาไว้เฉยๆแล้วก็กระจายความเสี่ยงนะคะอันนี้คือคำแนะนำจากคุณฟรีแมนนะคะ Mr. Chen, please your advice for investors.
So mine is very simple. I think the philosophy of investing is, it's investing good risk and avoid bad risk, right? Now, what does that mean? I think when a lot of us talk about diversification, I think when you think about diversification, my approach in investing is this. Instead of investing in, let's say, one global equity and try to diversify in many, many other stocks, I think the better or potentially better approach would be have a diverse investment theme and then focus on the best companies in each of those themes. Because I think, diversification you have to think about whether you're building wealth or you are protecting wealth also, right? So if you are thinking about opportunities, meaning you want to build wealth, then you got to think about clearly what are the themes, and you got to focus on those themes and invest in the best companies in those themes. But if you are thinking about protecting wealth, I think then it's about having one theme and then diversifying your investing across many, many companies. So it's up to you, but for me, I'm still trying to build wealth, trying really hard, working hard, trying to build wealth. I like to have multiple themes, and each theme, I have one or two stocks that I invest in. That's how I do things in investing.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chen. สำหรับคุณเฉินนะคะก็คือจะสร้างความมั่งคั่งนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นวิธีที่เขาทำเนี่ยก็คือว่าจะมีหลายๆธีมแล้วก็หาหุ้นที่ดีของแต่ละธีมอาจจะ 1-2 หุ้นนะคะแต่ว่ากระจายธีมออกไปไม่ใช่หาแค่ธีมเดียวแล้วก็พยายามหาหุ้นนะคะอันนี้คือหลายๆธีมนะคะท่านต่อไปค่ะ Mr. Chen, please give us your advice.
So I think the only thing that's certain is that we're going to have more uncertainty. That's the only certain thing. Don't assume that your traditional assets and traditional asset allocation is going to provide the diversification that you perhaps have become used to or is traditional wisdom. I think we've heard that again and again. And the one thing I would say is try and have exposure to a variety of countries and sectors where you're able to place lots of bets and really provide your capital to people who really have the expertise in understanding within each region, within each sector, where the winners and losers are. And try not to take a huge amount of risk in any particular part of the world or any particular sector, because you don't know how long those trends are going to persist. So if there is a way of allocating your own capital in a way that neutralizes those kind of dimensions and actually focuses on stock-specific opportunities, removes macro risk, removes sensitivity to oil price and energy prices, and growth versus value, then that's how you should be thinking about broadening the diversification within your portfolio.
Thank you very much คำแนะนำนะคะจากคุณฮิเชนเนี่ยก็คือกระจายความเสี่ยงแต่ว่าอยากจะให้กระจายหลายๆประเทศแล้วก็หลายๆเซกเตอร์ด้วยนะคะเพราะว่าไม่มีใครรู้หรอกค่ะว่าอะไรที่ดีเนี่ยจะดีไปนานขนาดไหนเพราะฉะนั้นดีที่สุดก็กระจายให้เยอะที่สุดนะคะ Dr. Jing, your advice please.
Thank you. And I think for China specifically, the next 5 years will be more about energy transition and also technology. And the technology-wise, I would suggest all of you to think about technology in a broad base. And extend our thinking towards and across the value chain. For example, if we talk about AI, it's not just all those big names, mega or terrific names, but also all down to the bottom, like the great equipment companies, the power companies that offers the first principle of every AI application. And then we also have chips, cloud infrastructure companies, large language model makers, and on top of that, that's the internet platforms, the big giants that really develop AI applications to everybody's daily life. So that's about AI. And besides AI, we also probably have robots, humanoid robots. We have advanced manufacturing. We have electric vehicles, healthcare companies, biopharma. And all of these are technology companies. We also have the traditional advanced manufacturing companies that are weighted to be empowered by AI, empowered by automation. So when we think about technology, let's be broad-based and let's incorporate more of these opportunities into our basket.
Thank you สำหรับจีนนะคะก็ยังจะเป็นเรื่องของการเปลี่ยนผ่านพลังงานนะคะแล้วก็เรื่องของเทคโนโลยีทีนี้เทคโนโลยีเนี่ยเวลาถ้าเกิดว่าพูดถึง AI นะคะก็อยากจะให้นึกให้เยอะกว่าชื่อดังๆที่เราอาจจะรู้จักกันแล้วนะคะแต่ว่าไปตลอดทั้งห่วงโซ่ของเขาเลยนะคะไปถึงผู้ผลิตเช่นอุปกรณ์หรือว่าชิปเป็นต้นเรื่องของ EV นะคะอันนี้ก็ยังเป็นธีมใหญ่ของจีนนะคะ Robots กับ Humanoid อันนี้เขาบอกมาแน่ๆแล้วก็เรื่องของ Healthcare นะคะที่เขาเชื่อว่าจีนเนี่ยแข็งแกร่งค่ะ Mr. Ankit please tell us about opportunities.
Sure.
Advice.
So in India's context, the best way to play the domestic growth story is through playing in the mid-market segment in India. In the last 6 odd years, we have seen the depth of the market increasing by 2.5 times in terms of the stock availability. If you go back in 2019, we had roughly 200 odd stocks with $1 billion market cap. Today, that number stands at close to 600 stocks. In 2019, we had roughly 70 to 80 stocks with $5 billion market cap. The number today stands at 215 stocks. So clearly, the opportunity available for investor to play multiple sectors, multiple themes, and the liquidity has improved quite decisively in the last 5 to 6 odd years. And another important dimension when it comes to investing in mid-caps is that the mid-caps gives you a unique opportunity to play into multiple sectors. Many of them is categories where mid-market companies are sectoral leaders. If you look at the largest hospital company in India, hotel company in India, QSR company in India, tiles company in India, plywood company in India, and so on, there are sector after sector where the only opportunity available is through investing in mid-market company. And finally, everything boils down to the numbers, the outcomes. If you look at on the left-hand chart on the bottom side, over a 1 year, 3 year, 5 year, 10 year, 20 year period, if you see the middle bar graph, which represents the mid-market index returns and it compares with large caps and small cap, mid-caps have delivered far superior returns over across time frames. So we believe that the best of play of India is through domestic story, and that is being best played by our partnership with BBLAM. The RMF fund, which is available to you all investor, is investing specifically and capitalizing on this mid-market theme in India. Thanks.
Thank you Mr. Ankit สำหรับอินเดียนะคะ Mid Cap เนี่ยน่าจะเป็นหุ้นนะคะที่น่าสนใจนะเพราะว่าเล่นได้หลายธีมนะคะในหลายเซกเตอร์ด้วยแล้วก็ที่สำคัญก็คือว่าเมื่อสักครู่ถ้าเกิดว่าจะเห็นกราฟด้านล่างซ้ายของทุกท่านเนี่ยก็จะเห็นว่า Return นะของ Mid Cap เนี่ยคือโดยเอาระยะเวลามาเทียบนะกับ Big Cap หรือ Small Cap กว่านี้เนี่ย Mid Cap ทำได้ดีมากเลยนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นสำหรับอินเดียอันนี้น่าสนใจค่ะเอาละค่ะนี่คือรอบแรกนะคะสำหรับpanel discussion ในวันนี้นะคะก็หวังว่าทุกท่านก็จะได้ไอเดียกว้างๆนะคะเดี๋ยวเราฟังกันต่อนะคะใน panel discussion ที่2ที่3แล้วก็ตอนบ่ายอีกนะคะก็จะมีการเจาะลึกลงไปอีกนะคะในแต่ละการลงทุนที่น่าสนใจค่ะสำหรับช่วงนี้ขอบคุณแล้วก็ขอเสียงปรบมือให้กับทั้ง5ท่านด้วยค่ะ Thank you very much for all of your advice Thank you